Hi, welcome to Garden Cafe. I'm Maureen, and this is my Texas Zone 8B9A garden. As I said in my August garden tour, I really wanted to take a section and fix it up and weed it and deadhead and do it so that at the end of the day I can look at one area that is completed, where there's actually a before and after that I can enjoy. I think with gardening at times, especially when you have several gardens, you end up hopping around so much doing all of the little things that are needed, that you forget to just focus on one area and make it the way you want it. So honestly, I intended to do that this year. It lasted for maybe a month or two, and then I went around to I'm a butterfly going from bush to bush and flower to flower to do the general things that need to be done. So I'm going to start with the front swoop only because it is the most visible. It's what the rest of the world sees. It's what I see every time I pull into the driveway, every time I leave the front door. So I'm going to start here. I am going to fertilize, folks, but I did say August is not a good time to fertilize. You don't want new growth that's going to get completely fried. We are, however, hearing, and that can always change, that the temperature may come out of the triple-digit heat indexes to upper 80s starting next week, which is so unusual for us for September. Once again, it can change, but for now, I'm going with it. But all I'm going to be fertilizing is I'm cutting that dahlia back because although it's growing pretty flowers on top, it's clearly stressed and strained. There are leaves growing down lower, so the plant is already starting to divert a lot of its attention into the new growth. So I'm just going to cut that back, and with the hopes and belief that that will flesh out in the fall and provide more gorgeous flowers. I'm going to come back here, and I am going to deadhead some of these roses. I'm actually going to prune them back because as you can see, we have a whole bunch of new roses coming up, and I want the energy to go to all of those beautiful new buds. Over here, I am going to prune back some of these fire and ice roses, and I'm totally going to fertilize. You can see from the yellow leaves, it needs something. And then I'm just going to start weeding in here. I'm going to weed. I'm going to just cut a few things back. I'm going to fix this up. It's beautiful. I love it, but it definitely needs work. Still dealing with the bronchitis, which is dragging me down just a little bit, getting better, and still dealing with the twisted ankle, which is so much joy. So I'm wearing out fast. I'll do a little bit each day. My plan is to tell you just generically what I'm going to do in each area, and then whatever I do in that area will be fast forwarded. But for this afternoon, this is the area I'm going to try to focus on. Let's go. And I'm sorry, just a quick note again. I told you why not to fertilize this time of year. You don't want new growth to get fried. But some of these plants back here are stronger, like the rose bushes. They're clearly lacking in nutrients. I'm not looking for new growth. I'm looking for trying to keep the big ones healthy. So the only one I'm going to fertilize, that I'm going to sprinkle the flower tone and rough it around the edges, are for those more established, stronger plants that can withstand this heat to begin with. That's the only ones I'm giving any fertilizer to at this point. Obviously, I don't need this electric hedge thing, but frankly, folks, not feeling strong these days, getting better, but frankly, pushing a little trigger and having it do the cutting is helping me out. So that's the dahlia cut back, and as you can see, a whole bunch of growth is already coming in. The plant was already, I think, storing a lot and starting to grow from the ground. As I said, in Texas, Central Texas, after a certain number of days of ridiculous heat, these plants are smart. They will say, okay, the top of the plant's got to be sacrificed and we need to move down. As far as the roses, I was able to get in here again, my Costco rose. If anyone can ever tell me what it's actually called, that would be fabulous. When I do the ID, the photo picture ID, plant ID, it basically just says rose. So I have no idea what kind, but I love it and I sure would love to get more. I'm actually going to try to get cuttings from this in November. But anyway, that aside, I couldn't reach the fire and ice rose from over on this side. Too many thorns. I'm actually going to come in through these bushes underneath the Rose of Sharon bushes and get to it from behind. Left side of the swoop. Gonna take out, well, I've got cut rose branches. I'll remove those, obviously. Take out some of the weeds. Deadhead this Mystic Spires. Cut back a little of the scarlet sage. And then, honestly, I'm going to cut back a lot of the bachelor's buttons. I just want to aerate this place because Mystic Spires is my big winner right now. And the scarlet sage. So I'm just going to clean all this area up. So I'm happy with this area over here. Took out the weeds, cut this back, allowing these plants to focus more at the soil level, closer to the soil level. I think they'll be less stressed that way. I've thinned out, I keep saying bachelor buttons, folks. I don't know what this is. Grows pretty little white flowers, provides ground cover, and helps keep the moisture in. So I'm fine with it being in the garden, but you really have to thin it out. Over here, just a reminder, these are the allium that I had. They actually grew this year, but again, this area gets so blasted by sun. None of the flowers open to be beautiful. I cut them back. I'm letting the energy go back into the bulbs. I will take those bulbs out and find a more, I don't know, beneficial location in the yard that will give these a better chance next spring. Now onto this section, way too cramped, too full. Planting densely in Texas is key to getting things to survive. But this is so dense. I think it's, as I said, there's no circulation and the plants are not looking so happy. In addition to being in the heat, I'm going to, again, just thin all of this out and more of those bachelor buttons down here. And that's buried. I mean, it's a mass in there. So I'm going to cut this back. no serious before and after here, folks, but I took out a ton of stuff from inside and underneath. I think these plants are going to be a lot happier finishing up the summer and going into fall now that they've been, I don't know, lightened up. Let's move on. Not quite sure what to do here. These are all profusion zinnias. Absolutely gorgeous, stunning color. This is what you see. In the middle, though, what happened was the bushes grew up, and then the weight just pulled them down. So their stems are exposed in this area of soil. I'm not sure whether just to add some soil to give it a little bit more, I don't know, of a boost and protect those stems, or whether I should cut those back. I may let that go for now. So actually, you know what? I'm going to let this area go for now. Let's move on. To retrace my steps back to the profusion zinnias, when I was ready to move on, I peeked underneath just a mountain of, again, I'll say bachelor's buttons. And there is a Gerber daisy plant back here that died in July. Beginning of July, it was dead. So I guess when everything started growing over it, I didn't pay attention. It is seriously incredibly healthy, and there's actually a bud in there. So I cut back these, again, bachelor's buttons, and several of the dead profusion zinnia stems to give that more air, more light, but I left everything very densely around it just to protect it and make sure that that soil doesn't dry too quickly and it doesn't get too much of a blast from the sun. But I'm thrilled. Wouldn't it be fabulous if that one started flowering over the next few weeks? And this is my dead zone that nothing wanted to grow in this year. There are a few things that are coming back. I believe that's lobelia down here under the profusion zinnias. Weeds, weeds, weeds. The angelonium is coming back. It's looking nice. And I'll tell you, folks, this is the massive, and I'll bring you up on the next scene, dahlia that I cut all the way back, and it is blooming just the prettiest flowers now. So basically, I'm just cleaning up this area from the weeds. I don't have anything really here much to cut back. Okay, that's a little better. Still, I've got to find something. I want something to grow here. This is just a big dead zone. So we'll see. Chocolate chipajuga is filling in, but as you know, this will not bloom until spring. The white verbena I had all through here for 3 years decided that that was it. This was its last year. But anyway, let's move on. This area, I am so pleased. These dahlias that I cut back, they were way too tall. They're growing back pretty flowers. Now, I do need to deadhead. I'm going to definitely keep up with that. I do not want this to grow super tall again. Down here, the pink and white verbena. This is from a cutting I took from the verbena on the upper level, and we'll get back to that in a second. The one in the upper level is not happy. This one is thrilled, and normally this area gets way too much sun for most of my plants to enjoy. But it's doing fabulous here. I love it. Vinca, always the go-to summer Texas color. Constantly blooms, comes in so many different colors. It's literally, I think it's perfect for this bend. I've always had an issue with getting enough flowers in this small space because these are in cement blocks that would give me enough color to go around this bend. Well, Vinca is it, and I'll use that from now on. Back here, Dusty Miller's still alive. Most of my Dusty Millers are not happy plants by any stretch of the imagination, but this one is, and I think it's because it's so densely planted. This was a snapdragon that actually started flowering last month, and I think it was because of that insane crazy rain we had at the beginning of January. But yeah, the heat, it just doesn't like life in July in Texas, or I mean in August in Texas. So that one's gone. I like this area. Let's move on. Back here, my hydrangea, which I will fertilize. You can see some of the yellowing leaves. I mean, it definitely needs nutrients and more fluid, but I'm going to come back and deadhead just a few of these flowers just to give it a little bit of a little boost going to all of these new buds that are coming up. And my geraniums are just well past being deadheaded. So in this area, once I got back here, I did really cut back these mums. They were encroaching on the angelonium and on the hydrangea. I deadheaded the geraniums. I did go ahead and decide to fertilize the hydrangea and the geraniums, the yellow ones, just to give them a little bit of a boost. I mean, they're turning chlorotic. I don't know. We'll see if that helps. So no huge before and after in this area. I just cut back the stuff that didn't look good to let the stuff that does look good shine a little bit more. Also giving a lot of air to several of those plants. So I'm happy with this section. I can come out here and I can see this and I can smile. Now my eyes aren't going to all the work that still needs to be done to bring this up to snuff going into September. I am already wearing out here, so this other side of the sidewalk still in the front. I'm going to finish this up. It's such a small area, and then we'll pick it up again tomorrow. And here, the chocolate chip ajuga is doing fine, but as you can see, it's yellowing. It's just too hot for it to be growing over these stones, so I'll cut those back. I'll weed in here. The Ixora is starting to bloom, so I'm thrilled about that. I'm going to cut back a little of this volunteer baby crepe myrtle, at least the lower part of it, and then I'll just deadhead the pentas. Okay, this area was quick and easy. I am happy with the front. Obviously, I have a bunch of debris to pick up, but folks, this is making me smile. It's making me look here and think, check, this is okay, move on to the other garden section. Day 2 of the end of August cleanup, and I'm going to focus on this area. I am feeling better every day, but today I'm going to try to stay in the shade as much as possible. Just a reminder, this entire no-till, this is a no-till garden, did not exist before, I think we did it in February, maybe even January. It's a very recent garden. I have not clearly been paying much attention, but because it did sit underwater for several days at the beginning of July, lots of stuff came back like the dahlias, but with serious powder mildew. It is growing pretty fresh leaves at the base, so these dahlias, even though they are growing pretty flowers, and I'll bring those in, I'm going to be cutting all the dahlias back. Over here, the clerodendron, love these, and I'll put a picture in the corner of what the flowers look like. They have babies all the time. I was doing a real good job of keeping up with those. In the spring, I actually dug many of them up, offered them on my neighborhood Facebook page, and they were gone in a flash. I did warn them that they will have lots of little babies you got to keep up with. I may do that again in the fall, but this is not the time of the year to transplant these, so those I'm going to cut back. Other than that, man, I'm telling you people, they're at like 60% of what's back here right now is just weeds gone wild. The mums, I should have cut those back, good Lord, a month and a half ago now over here. I hope that once I cut them back, they still will bloom in the fall, but it's so late. That one over there looks good. These are kind of fried. We'll see. I'm going to cut them back. It's going to look brutal, but it'll allow for a new flush with the fall flowers. They bloomed pretty in the spring. I should have prepped them for the summer going into fall, but you know, might as well get it done now. Anyway, most of this will be on fast forward. Well, this is definitely starting to look better. I am going to bring those flowers in though, get a cool drink and sit down and come out here hopefully and finish it off in another hour or so. Tons of mums I need to cut back over here. The Rudbeckia is growing in beautiful, but both these flowers are almost spent. I think I'll cut at least one of them back. A little more cleanup back here. I'm going to leave the taller stakes. I'm just going to pull them up and put them in the corner because this time I'm going to make sure as these dahlias grow back, I'm going to make sure they are staked properly. So I'm not battling with them to stay upright. But see you in a second. I cut a lot of these mums back, but they are so damaged, folks. After those, it sat in water for several days back at the beginning of July. This area was so overgrown that I didn't really take a close look. I did, I staked up the dahlias and, some of the major stuff, but I didn't pay attention to what was at the base of all of this. And these mums, their roots have been exposed literally for, oh God, next week it'll be 2 months. Not happy. There's not a lot of growth at the base. I'm kind of hoping they can be saved. I'm going to put some extra soil in here just to cover up the roots. I'll water it in well, fertilize it, and see if it can be saved for those fall blooms. Anyway, let's continue. So I'm happy with where we are here. The lobelia is growing out of the side of that. It is happy. I'm going to come up with a plant to put in that smaller terracotta pot. And since this plant right here, I call it a sister plant just because my sister Teresa and I got exactly the same plant. Again, one of the ones I thought was gone seems to have come back. So I may move this pot over, but I want to get something to put in the top of it. So now we're going to go over to this area. This area is my oleander, which has not bloomed since the big freeze in 2020. I think it might have been 2019. Anyway, around there, has not bloomed. Healthy, growing every year, but just does not want to bloom. Any suggestions? And I've used the fish fertilizer. Any other suggestions, please let me know. In this pot, in the spring, I planted cineraria, which frankly should have died a heck of a long time ago, but it seems to be a healthy plant. No flowers, but the flowers bloom in the cooler weather, so I would expect that one to be in the fall. I do want to get some other plants, flowering plants, to come out of there, but for now, I'm just going to trim back this cineraria. There is a moss rose under here that I'd like to give a little more light to, and then, of course, dahlias, cut them back. And the sunflowers up there. also cut them back. Oh, look what I'm seeing. Look at that butterfly. Aw, maybe I won't cut that whole sunflower down, but I am going to prune back all of that dead stuff a lot. Okay, so this area is looking tons better. I'm very happy with the work today. A few things I want to do, like I said, plant the flower, a little bit more of deadheading, and I think I'm going to hold off on really, I cut back a lot of the mums, but I think I'm going to hold off on really cutting them back until that soil gets settled, and maybe they'll be a teeny bit happier. So, time to clean up the debris and edge this garden. Okay, I am happy. This one, oh, I just saw my little clippers are there. I'll pick it up. Finished with this section. Tomorrow, I'm going to move on to the other side. I think it'll be up for working in the sun again tomorrow. Actually, folks, I looked at the length of the videos, and I think I'm going to stop this video here. I'll do another end of summer video picking up in the other areas. So we got the front swoop done and the other side of the front, and we got this back corner finished on this video. I'm really feeling fabulous about that. I'm actually still feeling pretty good, a little out of breath, but I'm still feeling pretty good. We'll pick it up again tomorrow. You folks have a wonderful day. Oh, and please, if you like this video, subscribe, like, or share. It really helps me to grow my channel. You folks have a wonderful day.